Hello, I'm Jan Szrawiński and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Doomsayers are having a field day with Ukraine talks, suggesting a new Yalta is upon us, with NATO about to fracture, while the US president is puppeteered by Moscow. Well, understandably, emotions run high, and the Trump team isn't helping with lots of contradictory remarks. Europe tries to belatedly form a united front and rearm, while Ukrainians are confused and furious, afraid their voice will be lost among the dissonant choir of global powers. Is the European security architecture about to unravel, or can a possible outcome emerge from the chaos? After all, an outcome which would be positive in nature. Joining us now is Małgorzata Bonikowska, president of the Center for International Studies. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Hello.
So first of all, what do you make of the recent statement of Donald Trump, who once again has accused President Zelensky of being partially to blame for the war, among a few other, likewise questionable statements?
Well, I don't understand it. I don't think really it's any strategy, particular strategy behind it. I just think Donald Trump says things he really believes, and this is very worrying because he speaks Putin, actually. He repeats a lot of a big part of the Putin's propaganda, which is quite popular in some circles in the Republican Party. It means Russians were able to reach out to the American establishment pretty well, while us, the Europeans, are not really treated seriously by the American administration right now. And this is also very worrying because it seems that they see us weak. So the best thing which we can do right now in Europe is that to demonstrate that that's wrong. Demonstrate that we are strong, we are able to act, we are able not only to discuss the things, but also to implement, like we really are. I mean, the EU has a lot of weaknesses, but we were able to implement 16 packages on sanctions against Russia, for example, and we were able to deliver help, financial help, and military help to Ukraine, more even at the level more than the US itself. So I think really Europe shouldn't just sit and cry, but just demonstrate power.
And that seems actually to go along with what a former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said recently. He said, of course, what Trump said about Zelensky is wrong. It's not correct. But he is just trying to shock you, Europeans, into action. He also added that the 300 billion in Russian assets should be seized immediately. But what do you think of this shock tactic? If it is a shock tactic, why is it directed against Ukraine rather than against European leaders themselves?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I don't see it as a particular tactics or strategy. I just think, unfortunately, that's very much how Donald Trump sees the reality. I think he simplifies the reality. He thinks that he himself personally has capacity to finish off this war just by interacting directly by Putin. I think he respects Putin, and he thinks that Putin wants this war to end. Donald Trump actually is now interested to finish off this conflict, which from our perspective is not bad. We also are interested. I stress, Europe is also interested in finishing off this war. But the most important thing for us and for the Ukrainians is on what conditions. We cannot just give up. Ukraine cannot just surrender. It will be really a disaster after 3 years of bloodshed and incredible sacrifices Ukraine has done, not only for itself, but also for all of us. So I believe the most important thing for the EU today is to support Ukrainians in their strategy to reach out to the administration of the US to convince Americans that they cannot, just simply cannot, finalize any deal without Ukrainian presence and without Europeans at the table as well.
Do you think countries like Poland could actually play a role here? Because we do know that the Trump administration has a problem with certain countries. It has a problem with certain leaders, like, for example, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. But some leaders of our region, they are respected. And also, countries such as Poland have been compliant with the NATO minimum spending threshold. Could we leverage this into some sort of channel of communication with the White House?
First of all, I don't think Donald Trump has really any particular feelings towards any country. I think he really wants to put America first. He thinks absolutely in the American terms of interest and power. He most likely believes he's selected by God to save America and make America great again. That's his vision, I think, and his mission. So all the other countries are really irrelevant. But yes, I agree with you. In these circumstances, some countries could be more of help, some others less. And in the EU, which he knows very well, is very anti-American, or at least American skeptical. Poland is different. Poland, by history, is pro-American and always supporting, also because we saw and we want to see still America as our so-called big brother, the country who helped us to get back independence, to get out of the Soviet bloc and all these elements, from history. So we are grateful for American ethos and values of freedom and liberty. But with Trump, now we have hesitations as well. And even Law and Justice Party in Poland and President Duda himself, I think now are in trouble in a sense that it's not the same Donald Trump. They cannot really just not see that Donald Trump respects Putin and wants to discuss directly a deal with Russians. So this is the last thing we would like to have from the American president. So in these circumstances, this enthusiasm of the Polish right towards Trump's being back is much less today. Well, if Poland can use our assets, we should do what Donald Tusk is doing, which is to mobilize Europeans, to mobilize potential of the EU member states, but also of the NATO as such, all the members out of, except for Americans, to stay united, to stay with Ukraine, and also to build within NATO very strong European pillar in order to start the process. We are already very late, but start the process to take responsibility for our own European security. In a long run, Europe has to be self-sustainable in a defense sector. We cannot just rely on anyone. It's not only about Americans, it's about anyone else. It is a consequence of the world of today that we have to think about self-sustainability in energy sector, in healthcare, in food, and in defense as well. High time for that.
So a quick question now. Do you think that there is a risk that the US could withdraw forces from Poland or the Baltic states? Leaders of those countries made statements in which they say there is no such risk, but it has been discussed. Do you think that it still exists?
I think today everything is possible. I mean, we are under shock still after Munich conference, but we cannot exclude now anything. Even if there is 1% of probability, we should take it into consideration. And I don't think there is any other solution to our challenges here today than just to mobilize internal own resources. In every single member state, Poland, for example, included, as we trying to do in the military sector, for example, but also within the European Union. This is the moment where the European Union can reorganize itself, make reforms, and really speed up processes of internal integration, or we will be neglected. We will become a battlefield, and the other powers will dictate us what to do.
So can you see the European Union succeeding? I mean, some Western European countries might be reluctant to give up certain luxuries in exchange for restarting their military capabilities.
It depends on the perception of threat. When you see the fire in your own house, then you don't think twice. You just immediately react and try to fight the fire. We in the eastern flank, countries like Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, even Finland and the whole Baltic area, we think align. We think absolutely the same, that the danger is there, that Russia is a very dangerous country to all of us, that Russia is not just a fear, a theoretical fear, but it can one day attack us physically. Moreover, we are already in the state of war in case of cyber attacks, information war, the attempts from Russia to disintegrate Europe, attacks on our democratic processes, constant penetration of the social media and internet. We are free countries. We are used to freedom of speech. But in these circumstances, we are completely exposed to these new dangers. So I think, yes, we here in Eastern Flank feel that we are at war already, but that's not really shared yet by other colleagues from Southern and Western Europe. I think generally the perception of direct threat from Russia is much less there, or even there is zero. So we have to really mobilize the Europeans, and we have to convince them that it's not only the problem of the Eastern Flank countries. It's exactly like the crisis of migration in 2015 and 16, that the South European countries tried to convince the other partners from East and North that it's not only a problem of the South. And of course, they were right. So today, it's the time for Europe to act as one. If we try to do it alone, individually, country by country, we are not able to face this challenge. We are too weak and we are too small vis-a-vis these emerging powers such as Russia. Russia's power bases on nuclear weapons and military strength, but also the US now positions itself as not maybe as an enemy, but as a partner who is no more predictable. So this is a very big disappointment, but taking into consideration this change, Europe has to react as America is not with us forever. We have to face this reality, and instead of crying, we have to reorganize our policies and invest much more in defense, maybe reducing many other activities.
Małgorzata Bonikowska was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And I'm Janusz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us.